The doctor looked carefully at the ultrasound screen for 11 full seconds, without saying even a single word. I counted every one of those long seconds myself as a heavy tension filled the entire room. Sighs. She then set down the ultrasound wand gently onto the tray and turned to face us both. My husband Eli heard her say that she needed him to step outside for a few minutes. The request did not include me or both of us leaving the room together at that moment. It was only him, my 31-year-old husband, who works as a farmer and a skilled carpenter. He had taken the whole day off work and held my hand through 5 months of visits. Her unusually calm tone sounded exactly like the special quiet that comes right before something important breaks. If you are new here, I should explain that I grew up Amish in a world most people never see. My full name is Miriam Lapp, and my maiden name was Yoder before marrying my husband Eli. I was born and raised in an Old Order Amish community near Gordonville in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. At 22, I left that life behind, though the habits and fears still cling to me now. In the tight community I was raised in, pregnancy was never discussed with strangers in any real detail. Women had babies at home or with a midwife who had delivered half the local township. If something was wrong with the pregnancy, you found out only when the baby arrived and not before. That very private approach left me completely unprepared for the openness of English hospital rooms like this one. When I left that closed life at 22, I eventually found myself in a sterile, fluorescent-lit room. A cold probe rested on my belly, while a screen displayed my daughter's spine moving in real time. It already felt like pure science fiction to a woman raised without modern machines or any electricity. I now live with Eli on a large family farm, without electricity on the outskirts of Strasbourg. Even after leaving the Amish, we keep a simple life but seek modern care for this pregnancy. By the time I got pregnant, we had been married for 2 years and wanted this baby more than anything. I want you to hold on to that feeling of hope because it matters for everything that comes next. The contrast between my old world and this hospital moment created a strange mix of wonder and fear. I also need you to understand something about how I was raised to see doctors in general. In my community, medicine was not exactly feared, but it was treated with a kind of wary distance. English doctors were for emergencies like broken bones that could not be handled with home remedies or prayer. You did not build a relationship with a doctor the way English families often did over years. You did not sit through years of checkups where someone got to know your history and habits. So the idea a doctor could glance at a screen for 11 seconds and know something was wrong unsettled me. It felt for a moment like being seen by someone with more information about me than I had. If you have never felt that particular kind of exposure, I sincerely hope that you never do. The 20-week scan is supposed to be routine, as they call it, the anatomy scan, for checking all parts. They examine the heart chambers, the kidneys, the brain, the length of the femur, and the fluid around the baby. Most people walk out of that appointment with a grainy photo and a gender reveal, and nothing else. For 4 months, I had dreaded every article about possible problems, yet told myself I was not nervous. I was lying to myself completely, and some quiet part of me knew it deep down that day. I made Eli promise 3 separate times that morning that he would come with me no matter what. We got there 20 minutes early, and I remember the waiting room smelled like hand sanitizer and burnt coffee. Another younger couple sat nearby while I thought how ordinary this room of life-changing waits appeared from outside. My name was called, and we walked back together while the technician, a younger woman with kind eyes, greeted us. She told us she had been doing this work for 6 years and got everything set up quickly. She squeezed the cold gel onto my stomach and started the scan like it was any other Tuesday. For the first 15 minutes, everything felt completely normal as she talked us through each clear image on screen. There is the heart showing 4 chambers, and look how strong that little beat is right now. There is a hand, and oh, she is stubborn because she does not want to show us her face. Eli was gripping my hand so tightly that I could clearly feel his own pulse against my skin. I was smiling so hard that my cheeks hurt from the pure, unexpected joy of seeing her move. Then somewhere around the 18-minute mark, she went quiet in a way that was not dramatic at all. It was not the kind of quiet you would notice unless you were watching her face the way I was. She moved the wand a little slower and frowned just slightly at one spot on the screen. Then she moved past it like it was nothing before coming back to it 2 minutes later. She told us she needed to step out and grab the doctor to double-check a measurement. She said this happens all the time and that it was totally normal with nothing to worry about, but I noticed she did not print us a photo before she left the room that day. The missing photo made the room feel smaller once she was gone, and my body already knew a shift had happened. The doctor came in a few minutes later and introduced herself with the warm, professional calm hospitals train into people. She picked up the wand herself this time and went straight to the spot the technician had lingered on. I watched her eyes because growing up, Amish taught me to read a person's face for the truth underneath. Her face told me something important before her mouth did, while she measured one area twice carefully. She typed notes without looking at the keyboard, then set the wand down and wiped her hands clean. She turned to Eli and said, "I need you to step outside for a few minutes right away. I want to talk to your wife privately first because it is better this way for everyone involved. I promise I will bring you back in as soon as we are done with this private conversation." Eli looked at me one last time, then kissed my forehead and told me he loved me deeply. He walked out of the room slowly, and the door clicked shut with a final soft sound. It was just me, the doctor, and the sound of my daughter's heartbeat still playing through the speaker. That heartbeat stayed steady and fast and completely unaware of the drama unfolding around her tiny body. Stay with me through what comes next, because the doctor's words were not what I had braced for. Most people who hear this assume the worst about the baby when they reach this part of my story. I have had friends guess it was a health problem or a sudden miscarriage scare for us. Neither of those things happened, and I need you to know the truth is far different from that. She sat down across from me and lowered her voice even though the door remained firmly closed. My heart pounded so hard that I could feel every single beat echoing inside my ears right then. I braced myself physically for whatever terrible news she might deliver about our unborn daughter very soon. She explained that during the scan something from my old medical history had been carefully flagged there. It came from a walk-in clinic visit years earlier during the roughest stretch right after leaving home. Hospital policy required private screening of any patient with that flag during important prenatal visits so carefully, especially at a milestone like the 20-week scan. They must confirm the current partner stays safe. She needed Eli out so she could ask without him present if I was safe now truly. I sat there absorbing it all, and then I started crying, but not the way expected normally. I cried because I understood why the system existed and felt grateful in a complicated, strange way. That old wound of mine buried so deep I had not thought about it for many years. Someone overworked nurse or doctor years ago cared enough to write it down for future help later. But I also cried because Eli stood outside that door now, probably terrified, imagining the absolute worst. He had no idea the reason he was sent away had nothing to do with our daughter. It related instead to a version of me that he had never even met before in life. I told the doctor everything about the relationship that ended more than 3 years before meeting Eli. That year nearly broke me as I made choices I am not proud of at all now. I trusted people I should not have during those lonely months after leaving my Amish community completely. There was a stretch of about 4 months in a relationship that was not healthy or safe. It left marks on me that do not show up when looking in any ordinary bathroom mirror. Eli had never once raised a hand to me or raised his voice in any anger ever. He was without any exaggeration the safest person I had ever let myself love completely and fully. After leaving, I was alone, couch surfing, with no one teaching what a healthy relationship looks like. The only model of marriage I grew up watching had the wife voice matter less than husband's. She listened to every single word I spoke, and she did not rush me at any point. When I finished, she nodded, made a note, and told me she was required to ask this. She was glad to hear I was safe, and sorry if the process had scared me then. Here is the part I think about the most, and want you to sit with carefully now. If you had been in that waiting room and a doctor asked your partner to leave outside, what would have gone through your mind first? Would you assume the worst about the baby then? Or would some other fear have surfaced first? I would really love to know your answer now. Drop it in the comments, because many women jump to a different fear first every single time. When the doctor opened the door and let Eli back in, I could see it immediately clearly. The fear he had been holding in the hallway while pacing outside that closed door showed fully. He sat down next to me and took my hand again while waiting for her words then. The doctor very gently told him that everything was fine and the scan looked completely healthy overall. Our daughter was measuring exactly where she should be, with 10 fingers, 10 toes, and strong heartbeat. She also had a perfect spine, and then the doctor explained the reason she had sent him out. It had been a routine safety screening required by the hospital and unrelated to the pregnancy itself. I watched the relief hit him like a wave, and then a flicker of hurt crossed briefly. That hurt came from realizing there was a whole locked room inside the person he loved deeply. He did not say anything about it right then, but just squeezed my hand much tighter instead. He thanked the doctor and asked if he could see the screen again before we finally left. She turned it back on, and there was our daughter moving her little foot completely unbothered by all. We did not talk much in the car on the way home to our quiet farmhouse. I think we were both processing different versions of the same difficult afternoon spent at the hospital. I watched the road signs go by and kept rehearsing in my head how to explain this. Every version I imagined felt inadequate, because how do you summarize months you tried hard to forget? When we finally sat down on the couch that night, the house was quiet except for hums. Occasional cars passed outside while I told him everything the same as I just shared with you. But I told it slower, with more of the details I had never shared with him before. That part of my life felt sealed off like a door in a house I left behind. I watched his hands while I talked more than his face, because I feared what might show. His hands stayed open the whole time, resting on his knees, not clenched and not restless ever. I needed to see that more than I needed to hear anything he might say to me. Because in the relationship I was describing, hands had meant something different I learned not flinching from. He did not get angry, and he did not ask the questions I was afraid he would, ones that would have made me feel small or damaged in some lasting way forever after that. He just held me, and he said something I do not think I will ever forget completely. He said, "I am not upset you did not tell me about this difficult past of yours. I am upset that someone made you feel like you had to survive that alone for years. And I think that is the moment, more than the wedding or pregnancy news, I understood safe love. Because I grew up watching a version of marriage where the man's authority was final always. The woman's job was to submit and stay quiet, and I walked out of that into danger. Our daughter was born 6 weeks early, but she was healthy, loud, and furious at the world. Right now she is asleep down the hall while I record this story, completely unaware of her impact. That 20-week visit became one of the most important conversations in our marriage, thanks to protocol. A stranger with clipboard and hospital rule accidentally opened a door I still needed to walk through. Systems like that check every time for every woman, whether or not anyone remembers to ask carefully. Past always follows you in habits, fears, and even charts, so who stands beside you matters most. Have you ever had a stranger notice something the closest people missed? Drop it in comments, please. Please like, subscribe, and share for more. Then thank you for sitting with me. See you next.